Hi, all. Today we're talking about composting, and you are going to come along with me as we upgrade from our trash bin compost that we've had going all winter to a larger backyard model here that we built out of pallets. Now, the trash can model of composting, or you can even use a smaller Rubbermaid tote with a lid, something like a 15-gallon bin. It's great for backyard spaces, especially if you have a smaller yard or a more urban setting where you don't have a lot of space. You simply want to drill a bunch of air holes. I think I used a 3/8 size bit to drill these holes all throughout the side of the container. Again, whether you're using a trash bin or a Rubbermaid tote or a box that you put together yourself. You also want to put holes in the lid, because one of the most important components to having a successful compost heap or bin is air. You need to have a adequate airflow through the entire system. Again, whether you're doing just a loose pile or a contained pile or an enclosed bin, you need to have a food source for all the microbes, and you need to be able to maintain an even level or amount of moisture. So water, food, air for a successful compost bin. Now we are going to show you how to build up a bin, starting with this empty one here, using some different carbon-based matter, some dry things. So you're looking at your leaves, shredded paper bags, or newsprint, nothing that's glossy paper. Sticks, you can use sawdust, things like that. And then you're going to alternate layers with your carbon and nitrogen. Your nitrogen, again, is going to be your kitchen scraps, your green things, your lawn clippings, yard clippings that are still live. They're not brown. So the idea is that you're alternating layers of carbon and nitrogen, or your brown layer with your green layer.
So the first step for a compost pile or contained heap like this is going to be creating a space of bare earth. So there's no enclosed bottom on it, and we actually chose a bald patch in our lawn, so it's pretty much just dirt there. This is so that good insects and earthworms and things like that can come up into your compost pile and help with the decomposition and create a really nutrient-rich compost soil. So we start with open ground, then we added a layer of small twigs and sticks. This is just to create an air bubble or an air pocket for circulation, because one of the keys to a successful compost pile is good air circulation. You want to keep your compost pile aerobic or with oxygen versus anaerobic, which would be without oxygen or too wet, and it creates a smelly pile. So we have this open ground, then sticks, then we added dry leaves. We add a straw mix, which is straw and rabbit manure from our pet. Now, rabbit manure, unlike a lot of other pet or animal waste, is compost safe because of the workings of their digestive system and their diet. You don't want to add cat or dog waste to your pile or anything like that. But again, rabbit is safe. Then we have our layer of kitchen scraps. Then we're going to repeat with our browns. We add a layer of dried leaves, then shredded paper, which is just the brown paper bag from the grocery store. Our straw manure mix again, then kitchen scraps, and we're repeating that over and over again and ending on a brown or carbon level to cap off our pile. Now, a good ratio that you want to start with and try and maintain is a 1/3 to 2/3 ratio, where 1/3 of your layering or your pile is the nitrogen base, the green layer, your kitchen scraps, your live clippings from shrubs or your yard, and then 2/3 part of your brown layer. Things like straw, dried leaves, shredded paper. You can use newsprint or the paper grocery bags as long as it's not a glossy print like magazine page. You can use tons of other things, basically anything brown that's out in your yard. So once you have all these layers created and you're ending on brown, you want to kind of monitor your pile. It's going to heat up and that is all the microorganisms and enzymes and things that are being created or drawn into your pile to break down all of the organic material. Every couple of days you want to turn it, add some water to it. It's going to vary slightly depending on your pile and your environment. It's all about creating and monitoring this balance. For no-turn pile options, you can continue to build on your layers. So once or twice a week or however often you need to, you can be adding your kitchen scrap layer followed by your brown layer and just keep going and adding to it, and you'll be able to remove or rake out the under layers as they completely decompose, and you can use that. If you're going for more of a turn method, you can heap everything up at once, kind of like we did because we had such a large amount and we needed to balance out the trash can that we had going over the winter. And so we stirred this every couple of days until it stopped heating up and creating that heat source for itself. And then we're going to let it sit for a handful of months. A good rule of thumb is kind of 3 to 6, and then it'll be ready to go in. So this will probably be added into the garden and then left to rest and leach back into the soil all the good nutrients over winter. If you are going with the trash can or storage tote method, again, you want to make sure you punch those holes on all sides. You can even put some in the bottom to encourage those good critters to get in there and help with your decomposition. But the great thing about those, or a compost tumbler that you might purchase, is you can put the lid on and roll it around the yard. This trash can, we would just secure the lid really good with a bungee cord and let the kids push it around, maybe once a week or so in the winter. Again, with the storage made tote, if you're making your own at home, you just secure that lid and shake it around or tip it over, roll it a little bit about every week, and it'll stir everything up and encourage maybe some of that exterior material to shift around into the middle where all of the action is and kind of evenly decompose everything. Things you don't want to put in your compost pile. I already mentioned the animal waste or manure. You also don't want to pull any diseased plants out of your garden or your yard and add those, because there's the potential of that disease to carry through your compost cycle, and then you're going to reintroduce it into your garden bed just to spread to further plants. You also don't want to put meat or bones or fish scraps or anything like that into your compost pile. They do make special tumblers or special systems that you can buy specifically for the purpose of composting those types of materials, but you don't want to put them just in your standard backyard pile. Other things to consider are pesticide residues. A lot of times we think of things that we can put in our compost, like banana peel, orange peels, things like that, things that we don't consume, but they could still carry pesticide residue on them. So it's just something to be conscious of. Other things that you can put in that we haven't covered yet, things like eggshells, they're actually a neutral, so they don't really qualify as a carbon or a nitrogen. It works best when crushed. You can see in the video here, we didn't really crush ours, so it's going to take longer to decompose. You can put in coffee grounds, the coffee ground filter. You can put in things like dryer lint, but with that, you really want to be careful and conscious of the types of materials that are going through your wash cycle or through your dryer. You want to stick to natural materials. If you're washing anything that's a blend, polyester, or acrylic, or anything like that, it's going to leave microscopic plastic particles in your dryer lint, which you're going to take out and put into your garden. If you happen to notice that your pile is starting to smell or attract bed bugs like flies and things like that, then you just want to simply add in some more brown and bring it back to a balanced state. It might take a couple of days and just keep at it. Now Jean's going to talk a little bit about storing compost scraps in your kitchen before you get them out to the pile in the yard.
Hi Salem South Lyon patrons, it's Jean from the library, and I understand that Sarah and her family have shown you that they are starting on a composting journey by building a composting bin. I've composted for many years at our house and wanted to share a few tips with you. For many years at our house we used a plastic container, just a plastic ice cream bin to store our compost materials until they could go out to the bin or the pile, whatever we happened to use at that time. I highly recommend it. It worked great for us. It's simple, obviously inexpensive, and it just tucked right under the sink. Worked great for us. However, it does have a nice tight-fitting lid, and so your inclination is to cover it up and thinking that would kind of prevent any smells. What in actuality will happen is if you put the lid on, especially a nice tight fitting lid like this that makes it airtight, the materials inside begin to rot and decompose in an anaerobic way, which makes it smell. So take the lid off. We always just kind of tucked it underneath, set it under the counter or in the cabinet underneath the sink, put the things in. We took it out typically every day, but it wasn't uncommon for us to take it out every 2 or 3 days, and we never had a problem with smell. So go against your judgment and don't put the lid on. More recently, I have started using this container for my compost. It sits out on the kitchen counter, and it is a bean pot. It's glazed pottery. It's nice and easy to wash, but it does have a lid, which seems like I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth. In reality, this lid is a very loose fitting lid, so there's lots of airflow. It kind of doesn't even, like there's gaps there that you can see. So it doesn't develop a smell. It just looks a little nicer on the counter. An old cookie jar would work also as long as you don't have an airtight lid. But I hope those tips help you. Good luck on your composting journey.